In this video, I will be discussing the No Child Left Behind Act and some policies that were created as a result of this act. I will also be discussing how these policies affect day-to-day functioning of schools, students, and teachers. What is the No Child Left Behind Act? The No Child Left Behind Act is a policy that stems from the Elementary Secondary Education Act that was put into place by President George W. Bush in 2001. This policy was created to close achievement gaps, promote accountability in schools, and to ensure that all students are on track to graduate college career ready. Although this sounds like a positive plan to improve education in schools, there has been a lot of criticism from schools, parents, and teachers about the success of this act. Schools and educators believe that No Child Left Behind is actually inhibiting students' progress in schools. The act requires that all schools make adequate yearly progress, or AYP, based on the academic achievement standards set by Congress. Students' proficiency in these standards are being assessed through the standardized test scores, limiting individual assessment and the focus on student growth. Educators believe that this widens the achievement gap in schools because it ignores other factors of conditions for learning. Although there are criticisms, specifically in the accountability and assessment requirements of No Child Left Behind, supporters argue that requiring schools to have highly qualified teachers and the requirements for all students to be proficient in math and language by 2014 sets the bar higher for education and forces schools and educators to be accountable for the success of their students. Specifically in our state of California, there is data that supports this. Since No Child Left Behind was implemented in 2001, fourth grade reading and math proficiency scores have increased. The required AYP is forcing schools in California to set a higher standard for their students and creates more opportunities for teacher collaboration between teachers of the same grade level. I am now going to discuss two other policies that stem from the No Child Left Behind Act: the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, and the Language Instruction for Limited English Proficient and Immigrant Students title. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act ensures that students with disabilities will get the services they need to receive an education. It also governs how state and agencies implement these services. The services under IDEA include intervention, special education, and early education services. The IDEA aligns with No Child Left Behind in several ways. It requires highly qualified teachers in special education and intervention, and ensures that teachers in special education need to be accountable for their students' performance by requiring annual reporting of goals and indications met by students, and that regular assessments are being performed. The Language Instruction for Limited English Proficient, or LEP, students and immigration students title is designed to improve education of LEP students by helping them learn English and meet challenging state academic standards. This title focuses on how to set different standards for LEP students and how to support LEP students in meeting those standards. This title is actually the third title of the Elementary Secondary Education Act and requires the same accountability and assessment as No Child Left Behind. It requires highly qualified teachers and discusses how educators can be accountable for their LEP students based on test scores. Like I discussed earlier, No Child Left Behind has a huge impact on schools and teachers. Schools are required to make adequate yearly progress assessed through student standardized test scores. The state standards that students and schools are assessed on have forced schools and teachers to change the way they approach learning in the classroom. Instead of focusing on individualized learning, educators need to look at their class as a whole and make sure that all goals are met. While researching No Child Left Behind, I quickly became passionate about my opinions on it and how it will affect my teaching. While looking up resources, I stumbled upon a video summarizing what Obama's administration has been planning to amend in the No Child Left Behind Act. 2 points I found important in the video were the new goals for this act and how the assessment for students' proficiency levels was changing.
Also broadens the curriculum, rewards student growth, strengthens and supports teachers, and provides support for state and district reforms.
I especially liked how the goals in this reform focused on student growth and rewarding schools and students that show improvement. The next point I liked was about the assessment methods for No Child Left Behind Act.
More rigorous assessment systems. The plan does not call for more tests, but for better ones that test critical thinking and go beyond current bubble tests.
What I like about this assessment method is how tests will assess students' critical thinking instead of simply filling in a bubble. Critical thinking is extremely important for students to be successful in the real world. This video made me hopeful and excited for what I will be able to do in the classroom. If Obama's reform works, it seems learning will become about more than just test scores, and teachers will again have the freedom to acknowledge student growth as opposed to lack of recognition of success. We will have the resources and funding to make learning more individually student-focused. IDEA also has a big impact on schools and me as a teacher. I need to make sure I am familiar with the process and requirements of assessment and individual education plans, or IEPs, that any of my students may already have or need. I also need to know the services available to my students who may qualify for them. Similar with IDEA, the language instruction for LEP students title impacts schools and me as a teacher. I need to be aware of the necessary adjustments to the state standards for English language learners and how this affects their proficiency levels. I also need to know how the process of assessment works and the approach my administration would like me to take when working with these students. Thank you for watching my video on policies that affect students and teachers in schools. The end.